In the video, First Guitar Lesson in Fingerpicking, link below if you haven't watched it, we labeled our right hand or picking hand fingers P, I, M, and A, and introduced some super straightforward patterns that can be used when playing songs with measures of 3 beats, 2 beats, and 4 beats. In this video, we'll introduce a couple of new patterns and demonstrate how combining these simple patterns can make a performance a lot more interesting. Additionally, we'll introduce a moving bass by alternating with the thumb. Before we get started, go ahead and push that subscribe button below so that you won't miss any of the wide variety of upcoming guitar videos. In the last video on fingerpicking, we played over Amazing Grace using this 3/4 picking pattern, P-I-M-A-M-I, and counting 1 and 2 and 3 and. Next, we'll play a couple of different patterns. Try this. P, I, M and A simultaneously, I, M and A together again, and then back to I again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 1 and 2 and 3. Here's a pattern that's similar but more sparse. P, I, M and A together. Simply we're going to let that sustain, counting the and 3 and by itself. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. So you can revisit Amazing Grace with each of these patterns as well as any other song with measures of 3 beats. For a different chord progression with a bit more movement, revisit Scarborough Fair. When you are comfortable using each of these patterns exclusively through the progression, try combining them. 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. What sounds like a very deliberate fingerstyle arrangement is really just alternating between the same 2 or 3 simple patterns. And of course you can experiment with your own patterns, just make sure that each measure consistently adds up to the correct number of beats, 3 in this case. So here's my measure, and this time let's play P and M together, I, A, I, A, I, 1 and 2 and 3 and. You may have noticed that I'm partial to patterns which begin with P. It's nice to initiate the chord with its root note and bass note. Next, let's look at some alternative patterns for songs with measures of 2 beats. In the last video, we played through the chord progression of Let It Be with the fingering P-I-M-A. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. I could also use P-I-M-A together, I. 1 and 2 and 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 1 and 2 and. Or maybe P and M together, I-A-I. 1 and 2 and 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 1 and 2 and. Send an email to verygoodguitarlessons@gmail and include this video's title in the subject, and I'll send you a PDF of additional arpeggio variations that can be used for measures of 3, 2, and 4. In addition to making our fingerstyle accompaniments more interesting, practicing these other patterns will continue to develop the independence and coordination of your right hand, or picking hand. The next big step in your fingerstyle guitar playing is to get your thumb moving and alternating bass notes. Whenever possible, my thumb is going to alternate between the root of the chord and an alternative bass note, typically on either the upper or lower string adjacent to the root. Let's revisit the chord progression from Donovan's Colors, a good progression to use since it's relatively easy. And since there are so many repeated chords, the real focus can be on your picking hand and alternating the bass successfully. I'm going to stick with this right hand pattern throughout, P and M, I, A, I. Already used in Let It Be, but doubled now since Colors is in 4. Bass notes played with P on beats 1 and 3. On measures of D, I'm going to alternate between the 4th string root and the open 5th string. With G chords, you can alternate between the 6th string root and either string 5 or string 4. I'm going to use string 4. On the A chords, I'll alternate between the root on string 5 and the 4th string. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, combine the moving bass line with the different fingering patterns introduced earlier. So there you go. Have fun coming up with your own permutations of picking patterns and applying them to any chord progressions.